Okay, hello everyone, and welcome back to Sprocket. And today is going to be the second of the last two videos I have to do on Sprocket, at least in 0.127, which is the patch that this is. It's not Geometric Alpha, which is patch 2.0. I haven't actually really toyed around with Geometric's internals, so I haven't actually got any tanks to show you. So I am on the old patch, which isn't the current stable. You have to go into experimental, but not 2.0, not 2.0 alpha. But anyway, yeah, these are just all of the tanks, well, the remaining tanks that I haven't previously shown in other videos. And I'm going to start with this one, which is the 12-inch gun carriage Mark 1. Most of these tanks were actually built for a World of Tanks challenge that appeared on the Sprocket Discord a long time ago now, and I don't know how it's going to work with 2.0. Since none of these tanks actually carry over, which is why I'm not showing them in 2.0. But yeah, the World of Tanks challenge was to design a tech tree from tiers 5 to 10 at most for a new line of World of Tanks vehicles, and I did two different lines. I did an artillery line and a wheeled medium tanks line, which I did before World of Tanks actually brought in wheeled medium British light tanks. British wheeled medium tanks. So yeah, before World of Tanks even brought in with that, that was my gimmick, and then World of Tanks brought it in. So obviously a World of Tanks developer was in the Discord and saw my medium tanks, my wheeled mediums, and went, "Ah, that's a great idea, let's do that." But anyway, so this is the tier 9 vehicle. I'm starting off with it just because it's the least impressive, visually at least. So yeah, this is the 12-inch gun carriage. It mounts a 12-inch gun as per the name. And this is what it does when you shoot it, and it has quite the reload on it. It has got a rear scoop, which obviously would be dug into the ground to save with a recoil, engine at the front, big old housing to keep it all. Armour-wise is absolutely terrible. Tiers 9 and 10 for my British artillery line don't have any armour because they have massive guns instead. Obviously we've seen the 18-inch gun carriage, which is this thing, which I have actually changed here to be 90 tons, which is the maximum you could have in the challenge at least for a artillery at tier 10, or even just for a tier 10 tank, I think, actually, maybe. But yeah, so it means that this is what the 18-inch gun looks like. 18-inch gun carriage looks like. It's got about a minute and a half reload time, but it would do, 3,000 damage or something with HE, who knows. I did make stat cards for all these things, but yeah, these are just the two big guns for tier 9 and 10. And you know what, we'll stick with the artillery theming, and we'll go for the... I think the cheetah is... There you go. I think this is the tier 6, I think, possibly, or maybe it's the tier 7. I think this is a tier 7 tank. I think I only did artillery from tier 7. So yeah, this is the tier 7, and this is the cheetah self-propelled, and as you might be able to tell, it's taking cues from the Crusader self-propelled, which is actually at tier 7 as well. So yeah, it's basically taking cues from the Crusader self-propelled in that it is a cheetah hull. I think this is actually a Mark 3 cheetah hull. If I have a look, so we got Mark 1, 2, 3. Here we go. So I think it's this base hull which has been cut and then changed to be the self-propelled version. As you can see, it's been raised up here. It's got a big scoop at the back, obviously, to help with, that'll be lowered and dug into the ground to help with the recoil, and Commander's cupola has been moved up here. Hatches, well, one hatch there at the front, another hatch there, to help the crew seeing things. Various engine bits. It's mounted over the engine deck, as you can see, so the engine deck has had to be reworked, but it is mounting this nice gun here, and as you can see, we can look and aim. It worked like the Crusader self-propelled in terms of actually aiming. Obviously you would have to do a lot of turning, aiming, however there would be probably some gun traverse as well. The gun itself is a, I want to say, 6-inch gun possibly, so 152mm gun. mounted right over the main chassis right there, all the way forwards. And yeah, it's not too bad. The model is perhaps a bit crude, rather crude. It does have a 30-second reload time as well, because the stats had to mirror as much as possible, at least, the in-game World of Tanks stats that you wanted. So obviously 30-second reload time for this thing is what I wanted, so 30-second reload time is what we get. And yeah, it's not too bad of a artillery self-propelled gun. As you can see, it does have some neutral steering, albeit it's not very good because of Sprocket, but obviously in World of Tanks it would probably be faster, probably comparable to the Crusader self-propelled. And then obviously you can bonk, there you go, nice and easy. Obviously being a cruiser tank base chassis, 60mm of front there, but the actual upper gun housing part is only 25, but the hull, because it is quite literally just the cheetah, which has been cut off at the head, it's still got the cheetah armouring, so 60mm of frontal armour, 45 side, which does extend up the top there, and then 25 rear. So yeah, all mostly the same. I don't know what this bit is doing there, but hey, that's just... oh, it's that's what it is. Okay, it's to make the rear breech, that's what it is. But yeah, so that is the Cheetah self-propelled. Now the next thing I'm going to show is going to be the Tier 8 gun, Tier 8 artillery piece, and working very much off of the design cues of the Germans at least. This is a Castle Mark II, possibly, 170mm frontal armour. Let's have a look. Where's my castles? There's my castles. Let's have a look at the Mark II. That's got... well, that's actually the Mark I gun carriage. That's the AVRE. Still 150. Okay, so maybe it's a Mark III variant that I used to model this. Must be. Yeah, okay, 170mm. It's a Mark III. Okay, so the gun carriage is... bonk, there we go. The gun carriage is the Mark III Castle, which has just, again, had its head cut off and a big old gun mounted in there. This is, of course, a naval caliber gun, because all of the theme of this line compared to the other British artillery line was naval firepower. So all of these tanks mount naval guns, which have just been sat and mounted on top of the hull. So it has still got the castle base hull and mobility and everything. So obviously it's going to be very strongly armoured on the hull, but poor mobility. The actual gun mounting isn't too bad actually, considering it's just going to be cast steel basically. But it's 60mm of frontal armour there, which at this tier obviously isn't going to be particularly great apart from against possibly light tanks or something. 45mm of side and 25mm of rear. Obviously the side of the hull is still 95, thanks to the castle. But yeah, it's basically been cut off, this thing mounted on top of it, and it has got an 8-inch Mark 8 naval gun, which is 203mm at tier 8, which is very good. And obviously the upgrade line to the 8-inch, you'd obviously have the 6-inch still in there, and then you'd have some intermediate gun possibly before you get to the Mark 7 or Mark 8 8-inch. And as you can see, we've got some nice decent gun elevation angles there, and the gun traverse, you can't broadside it because I had to have some realism. I know World of Tanks and realism doesn't exactly go together, but I had to have at least some sort of realism here. So you can only traverse it this much either side. You can't broadside it over because, again, there is a nice big old rear scoop which will be dug into the soft ground and then recoil against this thing for when it fires. Bang, there you go. It has about a 38-second reload time. The big old hinges there, which have just been done with ventilators stuck on their side, which is not too bad of a nice little detail, I think, at least. And then obviously the actual pivoting angle is on one of these sides, and then the ventilator has just been stretched to make it look like it. But yeah, this is the castle gun carriage. Oh well, castle self-propelled rather, to avoid confusion with the castle gun carriage, which is of course a tier 10 tank destroyer. which you have previously seen, I think, when showing off the castles. Here is the gun carriage itself. Where is it? There it is. Yeah, so there's the gun carriage mounting its 183mm gun. You've seen it before, I'm pretty sure. But there's the castle. So that's the tier 8. That's the tier 8 there, and then obviously tier 9 and tier 10 we've seen, which is the 12 and 18-inch gun carriages. Now, as for the other line I've got here is the medium-wheeled vehicles, and the first of these, is it in here? No, it's not. Okay, we're going to need to find that. I'm pretty sure it's going to be under... Oh, it's going to be under this faction right here. And we're looking for P, because this is a Ponsonby armoured car once again. There you go, Ponsonby AC. So this is the tier 6. 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, because I had 5 armoured cars. So yeah, this is the tier 6 armoured car, the Ponsonby armoured car, which is not actually a modification of an existing Ponsonby car. Instead, this is custom made to be sort of like an infantry troop carrying sort of type deal by the looks. Obviously, didn't enter service or production. Ponsonby was turned down with their attempt at marketing this to the War Department. But it is essentially taking a cheetah turret and sticking it on top of a custom-built armoured car chassis, and as you can see, it's a 6-wheeled vehicle. 6-wheeled vehicle with a 6-pounder mounted in it, or on it rather, in the turret. Obviously, we have got the Ponsonby logo right there. Ponsonby badge, I should say. Obviously, frontal engine mounted, and then as for the rest of it, yeah, it's just a sort of medium-sized, medium armoured car. There you go, nice shot straight to the back of the turret. Nice and easy. Actually got to do some leading, there you go. Armour-wise, it's not very good. Oh, there's the suspension going a bit crazy there. But yeah, armour-wise, not very good. 30mm of armour. This tier, obviously, not very good at all. Side armour, only 20mm, and 15mm rear. Yeah, didn't get adopted by the War Ministry, obviously, and for good reason compared to other armoured cars that even I have designed, let alone real-life armoured cars and prototypes that came about. Firepower, though, not bad. The 6-pounder is decent on here. Yeah, 107mm of penetration, which tier 6 for a sort of medium/light medium armoured car, not too bad. But yeah, so that was the Ponsonby armoured car. Now the next one, I think, is the Gull. So I need to change back to Great Britain. There we go. And we need to go for G for the Gull. Which will be around here somewhere. There it is. So the Gull, again, same deal. Lots of companies, apparently, that I design like the idea of cutting off the head of a cheetah and sticking it directly onto an armoured car chassis. So this is it. The actual one for the World of Tanks Challenge is changed around. It's actually wider and stuff to make it a little bit more realistic, quote unquote. Also, this one is missing hatches because the hatches are inside. So maybe we will switch to the one here. G Gladiator. Where is it? It's not even in here. Okay. Okay. Well, this is the only one that I have then. Alright, cool. So yeah, the hatches should be around here somewhere, unless I just forewent hatches, which is entirely plausible, perhaps. Yeah, I've just missed out hatches on this for some reason. But 2 hatches would be here, if you can believe that. And then obviously driver, rage operator, etc. Singular thing there. It's a little 2-wheeled thing, but it is... I'm classing it as a medium armoured car because it is using a medium tank turret. This is the Gull turret. And obviously it's not very well proportioned. I just thought it was a funny looking funny looking design, and I liked the idea of the sloped in rear, bottom hull. So that's what we've got going on here. Not particularly all too fast in terms of acceleration, but firepower wise though, we are mounting a 75mm gun in here, which has got 165mm of penetration. It is a sort of almost 17 pounder. Armour wise, 45mm sloped at the front, and then 45 frontal turret. Yeah, there you go, 30mm side all the way over, and then 15, 20 rear. 20, 30 actually, for 30 right here, but 20 in this little tiny strip. Little tiny strip there for the cheetah turret. But yeah, it is quite literally just like a Mark IV something, maybe Mark III, Mark IV cheetah turret just slapped on top of a custom armoured car chassis. It's not particularly good here. In World of Tanks it could be better perhaps, but yeah, this is how it looks here, and that is the Gull. Now the next one, it's been a long while since I actually looked at these things, and I think it's the Badger, yeah, because the Hedgehog's there. Yeah, I like the Badger. So the Badger is tier 8. It is probably the best looking one out of all of these designs, I think. It's very much a sort of post-war, early Cold War looking design. In fact, I think the wheel upgrade for this thing I've called the Badger Mod 1951, so it is a post-war design, early Cold War design, and I think it looks pretty good, sort of based on those early British armoured cars of that era, probably something like a Saracen or something, at least with the 6-wheel design. The turret there is just your standard British looking octagonal turret, again mounting a 75mm gun in here, which that's right, this isn't actually the World of Tanks one, because as you can see, this thing is mid-war. All of the World of Tanks ones are late war, but yeah, this is the mid-war, and it would be tier 8. I'm not going to bother keeping on going back and forth between the other faction to show you this thing, but this would be the tier 8 tank, so it gets a different gun in the World of Tanks challenge and everything. But here, for the mid-war era, 75mm gun. Obviously the law has been changed around for World of Tanks, so I've said this is post-war, but at least here it's mid-war. In fact, do I even have it here in the other faction? No, I don't. I must have got rid of it, along with the other 2 designs that are here as well. So maybe this isn't the post-war one. Maybe the Hedgehog's the one that I said was post-war rather than the Badger. I know there was definitely one which had like mod 1951 for the wheels, but anyway, I digress. This is the Badger. It's what I've put in tier 8, so obviously the stats have been buffed, etc, etc. But yeah, here it is. It's looking pretty good for a medium armoured car. It's faster than the Gull, I think, at accelerating, possibly. Maybe not. But then, as I've said, I'm not the best of Sprocket player. But yeah, it's not bad for a medium war vehicle, at least. Armour-wise, it's not particularly all too good. It's comparable, 50mm of front, and the same with there, 50mm of side and 30mm of rear. So it's got 50 pretty much all the way around, which, you can withstand autocannon fire and stuff like that. It's also only weighs 15 tons, so yeah, very lightweight. What are we still doing with that faction? Let's change that. Switch. Britain. There you go. So if we were to get out something and fight it, something like the Agincourt, obviously the Agincourt has got a powerful gun, but the Agincourt also doesn't have enough armour to deal with us. There you go, I killed him. Unfortunately, there goes my driver and commander, and there's another Agincourt somewhere. Where is he? There he is. Which we can just bonk. Nice and easy. There you go, I got him. So there's one more left somewhere around here. There he is. At least I think that's him. Oh, well, if it was, he's now cooking. There he is, he's hiding. So it's a nice looking design, at least in my opinion. I quite like the look of the Badger. There you go, that got him. So yeah, I quite like the look of the Badger, and if it was more mobile, obviously if Sprocket had wheeled vehicle physics, which are coming soon, trademark. I do have sort of custom front wheel covers there, and various other things. And yeah, I think it's just a nice looking armoured car. But this is what I put down as Tier 8. For Tier 9 I have the Hedgehog, and I actually struggled a lot with designing the Hedgehog. And the Hedgehog has come out like this. It's a lot taller. I'm not too sure on it really in terms of design. I think the back's alright, but the rest of it I really wasn't happy with designing the shape of this, because I sort of had to design this after submitting the line, because I wasn't able to design and take pictures of them before the deadline rather of the contest. So yeah, this is what I came up with. It's a sort of mini Centurion looking turret, especially with the boxes. Okay, that's why that's like that. Yeah. I'm not going to fix it though. So yeah, it's a very sort of Centurion, mini Centurion-ish looking turret, which is what I was going for, because again, this would be a post-war design. So a lot taller than I was hoping or expecting. It is also another three-wheel design, because the idea was, as the line progressed through the tiers, the more wheels you get. So tier 6 and 7 have 2 wheels. 8 and 9 have 3 on each side, I should say, and then 4 will be the final design, I think, for tier 10. But here it is, the Badger. It mounts a 17-pounder, I think, in the turret, and a more powerful gun, and etc., as you would expect, and obviously more armour and everything. So, as you can see, we're getting up to 55 kilometers an hour right now as we advance this way. Getting up to 60 kilometers an hour, which, yeah, not bad at all. There's the gun. There you go. 225 millimeters of penetration. Oh, it's actually a 20-pounder. 87 millimeters. Armor-wise, not very good, apparently. I must have not armored this. Yeah, the armor is not saved, apparently, from what I made it. Yeah, especially the turret. The turret armor just isn't here, apparently. Interesting. Yeah, not sure why that is. Again, I can't be bothered to go and fix it, because this isn't going to be the patch that everyone's playing in. So, yeah, for some reason, armor-wise, it's not saved. I think it probably would have been something like 75 millimeters front, possibly. With, by the looks of it, I think it's meant to be 60 millimeters side, which obviously hasn't saved here as I was making it. Obviously, it has changed around all of the values, but yeah, it's probably going to be something along the lines of 75 millimeters front, 60 side, and then whatever this is, 30 millimeters rear. Obviously, none of that is saved, unfortunately. But yeah, mounting a 20-pounder in the turret. A minus cupola there, obviously side bits and pieces to make it look Centurion-esque, to fit in with the early post-war design. And yeah, this would be at tier 9. The final design for the armoured cars, once I kill this guy, there you go, the final design for the armoured car is actually probably the one that I like second most, and it is the... I forgot the name of it, but we'll see it in here somewhere. Maybe it's on page 1 then. Where is it? Actually, where is it? Where is my armoured car? It's not the Chamberlain. It's not the Conquest. I do need to show you that. It's none of these things. It's not the Gull. It's not the Hedgehog. There it is. For some reason I was losing it. There you go. Stoked is the final tank. Final armoured car. There you go. So yeah, as you can see, quad wheels with 2 sets of 2 on each side, which, and I think this is a very nice looking design. It's kind of BMP-esque, maybe. At the front, it's sort of got 2 stacks, 2 stacks sloping, with this first one here being for the driver and radio operator, and then it sort of slopes back up again here to lead to the turret. And the turret kind of sloped as well and stuff like that, and it's got this big old engine deck at the rear, again with the same sort of side sloping that I've done there. Bit in the middle there, side hatches to get in, obviously 2 hatches at the front for the driver and radio operator, and then obviously 3 guys in the top to load the 105mm gun, because this is after all a medium wheeled tank line. So 105mm gun, it's got 260mm of penetration here in Sprocket, which yeah, that will be enough to deal with any sort of late war stuff, you would hope so. Has the armour saved? Yes, it has. Okay, so it's got 100mm of frontal armour all the way up here, same with the front of the turret, a side of 50mm and 30mm rear armour. So armour-wise, pretty good, apart from the gun mantlet, but it's fine. Also coaxial machine gun right there as well, and obviously the Matilda gun mantlet, you do get a coaxial machine gun there, and you do also have a 50 cal up the top for anti-aircraft, whatever. But yeah, so the Stoat, I think, is probably the best armoured car I've got here. I think I've placed it in the 60s bracket, so I think the wheel upgrade, or not the wheel upgrade, but the base wheel that comes with this is mod 1965 or something like that. So yeah, it is very much a early mid Cold War design, moving more towards mid. But yeah, it's sort of more like a heavy armoured car, hence why I've called it the Stoat heavy armoured car for the British. But yeah, it's sort of like a Cold War-ish armoured car design, with lots of wheels, very much fitting the heavy aesthetic, and 100mm of frontal armour. Yeah, Centurion I think had 88mm of frontal hull armour, which was sloped, and this has got 100, which is also sloped, not quite at such an extreme angle, but against like a German 88, which is what the Centurion was going up against, in theory at least. The slope armour here at 100mm should do perfectly well. So yeah, that is the Stoat. There is a couple more vehicles I have to show you. They're not armoured cars though. The first thing I'm going to show is this thing, which I don't think I've shown before, and I also don't remember why I made it. I don't think it actually went into a contest, but yeah, I don't remember why I made this, why this cruiser tank was actually made, but it's quite fast. We're getting up to 60 kilometers an hour here, reaching the ramps. That guy's didn't go up it because the tanks are placed just enough so that they don't. But there you go. Whatever gun we have here, probably a 60 pounder, 20 pounder. It is a late war design as well. But yeah, it's 20 pounder gun, 229mm of penetration. Coaxial machine gun right there, 50 cal up there, obviously spare wheel, various bits and pieces around here. Yeah, I have no idea why I made this or what it's for, or if I've even shown it before. But yeah, this is the Conquest. It's just an interesting cruiser tank. Don't know why I've got that. I do know why I have this though, which is the Cambridge Airborne Infantry Tank Mark 1. So there was a Redux version of the Airborne Light Tank Challenge in the Sprocket Discord, and if you remember, I previously submitted to the first round version of it the Neville Infantry Tank Airborne Mark 1, and it did okay. It was in the top half, I do believe, but it was very low top half. It was very much as in the sort of mid-range bracket, which is pretty impressive for what is essentially a miniaturized Churchill tank. As you can see, with its 150mm of frontal armour, very flat, 5-man crew, 80mm of side armour. It's got a 105mm gun here for infantry support, which doesn't actually have all too much penetration. 163mm of penetration with the 105mm. It's in length and all of the diameters that we got given for the Airborne Light Tank Challenge. And the Redux came around and I thought, you know what, let's give it another go. I was initially going to just make a Mark II version of the Neville. However, the Neville, since that challenge came out, Sprocket was changed and that therefore changed how the Neville was, and I couldn't get it to fit, so I thought, you know what, Let's make a new one. And this is what we came up with. As you can see, it's very similar looking to the Neville. Yeah, it's very similar looking to the Neville. It's got another 105mm gun with 177mm of penetration. 175 was the minimum. And you got points for certain things if you had more. And you lost points if you had less, so like fuel I think was one of them, firepower was another, etc, etc. Crew was another one, so it's a 4-man crew this time. I wasn't able to fit 5 men within the tonnage limit, which I think it was 18.5 tons. I am quite literally the maximum weight, and also the maximum like length and width and everything. This is a big airborne tank. But this was the Cambridge, so one-man driver, and he also has a coaxial machine gun there that he can go for, and then there's 3 men squished into the top there. Nice little engine deck at the back. Obviously I couldn't fit anything here because of the length restriction. I've gone with the cruiser wheels to stick with the whole British theme. Also, recoilless rifle. You got 15 points. You got plus 15. Sorry, no. You got a plus 15%. What's it called? Desirability bonus if you had a recoilless rifle, and if you had a coaxial that was above like 57mm or something. You didn't want. They didn't want twin gun designs, but if you had extra things like this, you got extra desirability bonus. So just before the contest ended for judging, I went ahead and I modified the Cambridge to include this. It is a fold-outable recoilless rifle based on something like the 90mm recoilless rifle that the Americans had in the 60s or something. So as you can see, it's on a swivel mount right here. There's the swivel point, or the elevation point rather. Here's the essentially arms that hold the recoilless rifle, and it could swing up for the commander to shoot, or it could swing down for packing into the Hercules, basically. And that got me some extra desirability bonus, and I was like, hell yeah, that does good. And various other things I was getting bonuses for. Armour-wise, I got a bunch because I do still have 110mm of armour. The scoring or rules was a lot more strict, which meant that I wasn't able to have as much leeway as I was with the Neville, hence why I've only got 4-man crew, why it's only 110mm of frontal armour, 60mm side and 50mm rear. I had to really strip down on these things in order to get it within the contest limits. However, came 5th, which is not bad at all. Overlord, who was running the project, liked the tank. It was, I think he said it was one of his favourite tanks from the contest, which, you know, is very nice. It is quite literally just a little Churchill because, you know, who expects a tank with 110mm of armour to be dropped behind your lines? Nobody. so you know, you've got yourself a pocket heavy tank here with enough firepower to do infantry support or take out light vehicles. And if you come up against heavy vehicles, well, that's why you have the recoilless rifle in it. We also have smoke grenades on here as well for extra bonus. You know, if you're coming up against an enemy that you can't fight, you can pop smoke, or if you need to cover infantry, pop smoke, whatever. Lights, obviously, and stuff like that. And yeah, it's also pretty mobile. I originally had this thing even faster than it is, but there was no bonus for having a faster tank than 50 kilometers an hour. So in order to not, you know, you didn't get extra points after 50 kilometers an hour. So what I did is I greatly shrunk the engine size, which gave me a lot more internal space and and weight to use, which I just bunged into armour because you got a lot of extra points for armour. So yeah, that's why this thing, it's still going at, you know, 64 kilometers an hour, which is still pretty fast. And look at that, I can ricochet shots off of the frontal armour of this thing at this range with 177mm of penetration. They're only just not penetrating, but they're still, you know, you angle this thing, you're blocking BMP shots or whatever, and yeah, it's just a funky looking miniaturized Churchill. airborne tank, and yeah, it came 5th in the challenge, which I was very happy with. There you go, kill the tank. So yeah, that was the Cambridge airborne tank. If there was a Redux, I would have tried to have got 3rd, or at least be on the podium, because that's the next challenge for this thing. But yeah, that I think is all of the things that you haven't seen before. I've now shown you basically the entire line of everything that I have built. Yeah, you've seen the King George. Yeah, that's basically everything. Everything that has been built since that time. I mean, I might make some other videos in this patch, just as a sort of send-off for it. Basically, doing something like, my top 5 favourite tanks of this faction or something. My top 5 British Commonwealth tanks that I've made, because definitely the Woomera would be in there. I mean, look at it. I love the Woomera. It's great for the Australian challenge. I can't remember where it came, but I think it was pretty high. It was something like 3rd or 5th possibly. So yeah, the Woomera was real good, which yeah, very happy with. And I don't even know if I showed you the other livery that it had. There's the other livery for jungle fighting, because you had to have 2 different liveries in the challenge. But obviously I like sticking with the Outback camo. It's more Australian that way, and Australia Hungarian. But yeah, that is, I think, all of the tanks that I have never shown you now shown, because yeah, once Geometric Internals 2.0 come out, that's what everyone's going to be working on. Although I think we're a long way away yet from Geo Internals. But yeah, that is it for Sprocket. I will thank you for watching, and goodbye.